Hi guys, and welcome to All About the Philippines Dating a Filipina course. This is a 15-part video series which will give you all my best tips and information to help you find and maintain a dating relationship with a lovely Filipina. Now all these videos that we do, this 15 parts, as we do them, they'll be put into a playlist on my YouTube channel. So that playlist will be simply called Dating a Filipina Course. So you'll be able to find them all in there, and they'll be all numbered from the first episode through to the 15th episode. Now, the first episode, we had you looking at yourself. So really having a good hard look at yourself to see why it is you really want to date a Filipina, and also looking at your own life to see if you've got any unresolved issues there before you start your new relationship with a Filipina. So assuming that's all in check and you've done all that and you're happy to move forward, then in this episode we're looking at the financial situation. So having a bit of a look at what the cost is going to be to you dating a Filipina, and especially if you're going to be bringing her to your country, then what sort of costs are involved along the way. Now, I'll say straight up that I can only give you estimates in this area as prices change all the time, and really some things are a matter for your own budget. You can go higher or lower on some of the things we're going to talk about. So let's get into the video. So guys, something I probably didn't mention in the first video that I should have mentioned, and I'll briefly pick up on that now, is that if you're going to bring a Filipina to your country, you need to have, in most countries at least, you need to have a clear criminal history. So if you have any criminal convictions in your country, then you certainly want to be checking within your own country whether or not you would be eligible to bring a Filipina to your country. If that's the plan, maybe your plan is to go to the Philippines, where then you still may be screened when going into that country about your criminal convictions. So that's just a bit of a heads up for you guys who may have those criminal convictions, so you can find out where you stand before you start this long process to see if it is possible to someday have a Filipina come and live with you in your country, or for you to go to the Philippines to live. So looking at the financial side of things, guys, initially, in most cases, you're not going to need to spend any money. You're just taking your time and getting to know the Filipina online. Now, the exception to that, of course, is if you have enlisted the services of an online dating site, or if you decide to go directly to the Philippines and search for a Filipina there yourself. Now, we will be covering both of those scenarios in episode 6 of this Dating a Filipina course. So when you first meet your Filipina, so maybe after the first 2 or 3 months, you may want to send her some small gifts. So things like inexpensive jewelry, or maybe some chocolate, or even a small amount of cash every now and again, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 pesos, just to give her a bit of a hand. Nothing over the top. And these small gestures and gifts will go to show her that you're thinking about her while you're apart, and you're just trying to give her a little bit of a hand as she's going forward in this new relationship with you. Now, moving on from there, as you go through the relationship, there's going to come a time when you want to go and see her. If everything's going well online, then of course it's a natural progression for you to go to the Philippines to see her in her own country and start to get to know her. Now, I recommend that you'd plan 2 trips to the Philippines. The first one would be a shorter trip, maybe between 3 to 6 months after you start online dating, for maybe 1 to 2 weeks, and then a few months after that, make another trip back to the Philippines for 3 to 4 weeks if everything has gone well in that first visit. I'll be talking more about the planning side of those trips around episodes 8 and 9. And just for today, we're looking at the financial side of it. So how much is it going to cost you for 2 trips to the Philippines, including airfares and accommodation and the cost of living while you're there? Well, I can certainly help you in regards to finding great airfares by checking out holidayescapetravel.com. I've put the link below. Check it out, and it's a comparison website where you'll find the very best flights and accommodation. But of course, the costs are going to be dependent on where you come from, the time of year you travel, and even sometimes the time of week that you're traveling. So it's always good to get in advance and get your tickets booked a good 2 to 3 months prior to leaving your country to go to the Philippines. Now, you could estimate the cost here would be around about $2,000 to $4,000 for your first trip, which is the shorter trip. The one I previously mentioned would be 1 to 2 weeks, and then the second trip could be $4,000 to $6,000. That's the longer trip of anywhere from 3 or 4 weeks in duration. And just a side tip on that is before you travel overseas, make sure you've got at least 6 months left on your passport. So it's valid for at least 6 months, because if you get to the airport and they find that you've only got 4 months left on your passport, they will refuse you to travel. So that's a big tip. Now, if all is going well, there'll become a time after you've had your visits to with your Filipina in the Philippines that you will want to bring her to your country more than likely. Now, to do this, you're going to need to get her a passport, and that's not overly expensive. I think around about the $100 mark, $150 mark, and also getting her a tourist visa. Now, the cost of that will vary from country to country. In Australia, around $200 if you do it yourself, and I believe in the USA it's around about the same costs, I believe. I can recommend iVisa for tourist visas from the Philippines to the USA. Now, as I say, to do a paper visa, or what they call a B1, B2 paper visa, the processing time is 5 days. They'll do all the application for you. They'll ask for your details, obviously. And this B1, B2 category is for non-immigrant visa or persons wishing to enter the United States temporarily for business category B1 visa or for tourism category B2 visa, or a combination of both purposes. The US government generally issues a B1 and B2 visa rather than just a B1 or B2 visa. So that's just a little bit of information that I've got from the iVisa.com site. As I say, I'll put that link in the description below for you to check out, and they do very good work around tourist visas into the United States from the Philippines for your Filipina. And I'm very happy to say that I am an affiliate of iVisa, and I've had some very good feedback from some of our subscribers around their services. Now, the next thing is a partner visa, which we call in Australia a partner visa anyway, and that can be one of the biggest expenses of dating the Filipina. Now, this would be when you've married the Filipina and you now want to bring her to your country. You would look at getting a partner visa here in Australia. Now, in Australia, that will cost you around about $8,000 if you process it yourself. Obviously, if you use a migration agent, it's going to cost you quite a bit more. So it is quite expensive, and that here in Australia is for an 820 and an 801 visa, which is what I actually processed myself. I did that myself back in 2014 and did it successfully. So while it was quite frustrating at times, and you have to give a lot of information and gather a lot of information and sign documents and have other people sign documents for you saying they know you and all this sort of thing, and they know you're Filipina and they know you're in a true and genuine relationship together, it can, as I say, be quite time consuming and frustrating at times. Then on top of that, at some point through that process, they're also going to be asking your Filipina to do a medical examination to make sure she doesn't have any diseases, I guess, or health issues that would come back to the Australian government to bear the cost at some point. So that cost here in Australia, I think, is around about the $300 mark. Now, being that I'm an Australian, I really don't have any experience about bringing a Filipina to the USA. And a good point where you can start your research on this, if you're a US citizen and you're wanting to bring your Filipina to the US, is check out the YouTube channel called Philippines and Beyond with Jerry. Now, Jerry has a lot of information, a lot of good and accurate information about the different visas in bringing your Filipina to the United States. And of course, do your own independent research. Contact the different government departments in your country, that sort of thing, to get the most up-to-date and accurate information. But what I can tell you from a little bit of research that I've done here is you can actually apply for a K1 visa in the United States, which is issued to the fiance of a United States citizen to enter the United States. A K1 visa requires a foreigner to marry his or her US citizen petitioner within 90 days of entry. So when you bring your Filipina there under the K1 visa, you have 90 days to marry her in your country. And I'm not sure if there's any other visas that you can do as well, but that seems to be quite a popular one. And how much is the K1 visa in the United States? Well, as of early 2019, the filing fees for the K1 process were $535 and $265 to apply for a K visa, which is paid to the consulate, and a further $1,225 for Form 1-485 and the adjustment of the status packet filed with the USCIS, including a biometrics fee. That brings the total government US fee for this K1 visa to around $2,025. Now, that was at the start of 2019, so prices do change, so always check and be sure. And as I say, check out Philippines and Beyond YouTube channel as a great starting point. Ask Jerry questions. I'm sure he doesn't mind answering those questions. And of course, do your own independent research to make sure you've got all the up-to-date information about the different visas that may apply to you and the up-to-date costs. So moving on from the visas, then you're going to be wanting to bring her to your country if that's where you're planning to live. And even if you're not, she might want to come out there for a bit of a holiday to see where you live and what it's all about. So you're going to need to be covering another airfare to bring her there, which would be a return airfare. And you also have to look after her while she's there on the tourist visa in your country. You're the sponsor of her, so you need to cover all costs. So you need to clothe her, feed her, accommodate her, any expenses that she needs. If you would need to pay for travel insurance for her while she's there in your country, and generally you're responsible for her in every way financially. And of course, you're probably going to want to show her around your country a little bit, so you might be going on short vacations to different places, even if it's for weekends. It all adds up in cost. And you've got to remember that while she's on a tourist visa, she's actually not allowed to work, so she can't go out and earn her own money. So you are fully and totally responsible for her and providing everything for her at this time. And you'll need to prove all this to the government in your application when you're bringing her there, that you have the funds, you have the means to support her. So you'll have to prove that you've got an ongoing job. They'll ask for pay slips and all that sort of thing to show, and bank statements to show that you have regular income coming in that can support yourself as well as your Filipina. Now, after she's had a visit to your country, she's more than likely going to go back to her country. And you may want to purchase something like a laptop for her so you can have good conversations while she's back in the Philippines and you're in your country, so you can continue that long distance relationship. I know in my circumstance, I did help pay for a laptop for my girlfriend at the time because she was going to a internet cafe, and she was leaving there quite late at night, where I was worried for her safety, that someone could follow her home or anything could happen to her, that being out that late at night. So I purchased a laptop for her so she could just chat to me from home, so she'd get straight home from work and we could chat, and that would give me great peace of mind. Now, it doesn't have to be the top of the range laptop, just something that's going to do the job. Maybe cost around the $800-900 mark, and you'll find that'll be quite sufficient for your needs. And at some point in this relationship, you may want to help her have a better quality of life. You may have been to the Philippines, you may have seen where she's living. You might see that, there's rats running through there, or it's an old and it might be a dangerous place to live in, maybe fire hazards, and that plays on your mind. So you might say to her that you want to help her get better accommodation, where you might help her pay for that accommodation every month. Now, you don't necessarily have to pay the full amount. If she's working, she can kick in a couple of thousand pesos, and you might pay another 4 or 5 or maybe even 6,000 pesos to her every month to help her get a nicer place where it's a lot safer. Now, I know I did that in my relationship with my wife when we were just dating. I did visit the Philippines and I saw where she was living, and to me it was a huge fire hazard, and I really felt the need to send her 7,000 pesos a month so she could move into something a lot less dangerous, and it gave me, again, peace of mind knowing that she was okay. And maybe she's living in a place that's quite decent and safe and everything, but you still might feel the need to send her 3,000 or 4,000 pesos a month just to help her with a basic living cost. Remember, you're going to see your Filipina. If she's a working girl, you'll find that she's working very hard. She's there working in her company or organisation. She might be typically doing 12-hour days, 7 days a week. And that little bit of extra money from you can certainly go a long way to making her life a little bit easier in the Philippines. And I know most guys are very happy to do that. Now, we've been going a while in this video, but all this information is very important because it's allowing you to see what costs are most likely to crop up as you go along. So you need to be aware of that. So I'll try and get through the last few points as quickly as possible so we're not going on too long. Things like vaccinations. Now, a lot of people want vaccinations when they go to the Philippines. There is things that you can catch in the Philippines if you're not vaccinated. You're looking at things like a new polio outbreak in some parts of the Philippines at the moment, as we speak, is going on. So there's a warning there for foreigners to be vaccinated against polio. Also, things like dengue fever, that's another outbreak going on there in quite a few parts of the Philippines. Malaria, tuberculosis, hepatitis A, B, and C. So to get your vaccinations, I know here in Australia you're looking around about anywhere from $300 to $500 to get your full vaccination. So check with your GP, and check with your GP a good 3 months before you're scheduled to go to the Philippines, or even 4 months before you're scheduled to go to the Philippines. Because I know with the hepatitis B shots, for example, they come in 3 doses. So, and they're spaced apart over a 3-month period. So now we move on to another big cost in this relationship, and that's when you're getting engaged and married. So if you're getting engaged, the rings, the party, etc., then the cost of the wedding when you're getting married, you're going to be looking at paying for the ceremony itself, the rings, reception, the wedding dress, possibly the bridesmaids' dresses, the groomsmen's suits. All those things cost quite a bit. So if you're getting married in your country, so the costs will be much higher, and a basic simple wedding may still cost you in your country between $3,000 to $5,000, and that's for a very basic simple wedding. Well, for those of you that decide you might want to marry in the Philippines, or maybe even in both countries, then of course that's going to be extra costs. But if you're just marrying just in the Philippines, and you want an average wedding, so not a budget wedding, not a big wedding, just an average wedding, you might be looking around the $5,000 mark there as well to get everything done. And you got to remember that it's a process and it does take time in the Philippines, so you really have to prepare well in advance. Anyway, guys, that's a pretty comprehensive list of costs that you can expect when you start dating your Filipina right through to when you marry your Filipina. So hopefully that'll give you some sort of an idea of what is to come. And if I've forgotten anything and there's anyone watching that would like to add, whack your comments below. We're a community and it's all great to help each other. And don't forget, of course, if you've enjoyed the video, to give it a big thumbs up. Share the video with all your networks. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to get more videos. In part 3 of Dating a Filipina course, we're going to be looking at what type of Filipina are you searching for. So really important to have it clear in your mind the type of Filipina that you believe will suit you and that you can have a good long-term relationship together with. So stay tuned for that video, guys. I appreciate all your support. Thanks for watching. Take care and bye for now.